boys and girls of grade 6. I am teacher Melinda Hughes, and today we will continue to examine the topic weather and climate, but specifically natural disasters. In our last lesson, we looked at hurricanes. And so for this lesson, we will examine the other natural disasters. Of course, a natural disaster is a disaster that occurs naturally by nature, by the things that coordinate in nature to spew a disaster. So for this lesson, we will examine the other natural disasters other than hurricanes. So the first one we will look at today is volcano. What is a volcano? A volcano is a vent or a chimney that connects molten rock called magma from within the Earth's crust to the Earth's surface. The volcano includes the surrounding cone of erupted materials. So in the picture, we have an image there of a volcano. States of volcano. Volcanoes exist in 3 states. These states are active, dormant, extinct. An active volcano can come to life or erupt at any time. A dormant volcano is quiet or inactive for a period. An extinct volcano can no longer come to life or erupt. It simply doesn't exist. So there we have it, the 3 states of a volcano: active, dormant, and extinct. We will examine parts of the Caribbean where volcanoes erupt. In many parts of the world, including the Caribbean, volcanoes are active, dormant, or extinct. Some of the volcanoes of the Caribbean are South Soufriere in Montserrat, Mont Pelee of Martinique, Mont Soufriere of St. Vincent, and Soufriere of St. Lucia. These are some of the volcanoes that exist within the Caribbean. So in the picture, we see South Soufriere in Montserrat acting up there, Mont Pelee of Martinique, and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have the Soufriere. When there is a volcano, there is a bellow of smoke and ash. As a matter of fact, ash is very detrimental to person's health. In addition to the ash, there is a molten form of rocks spewing up out of the earth into the atmosphere. And for sure, if it touches anything that is alive, whether humans, animals, or plants, they disappear because they are burnt to death. When there is a volcano, there is an aftermath of the eruption. In the picture, we can see that vehicles are covered with something that appears to be mud, but of course, that is ash. Vehicles are damaged. Buildings are thrown down because they are covered with stuff that flows or spews from the volcano. And so in the picture, we can see some of the effects or the aftermath of a volcanic eruption. The next natural disaster that we will examine is earthquake. Earthquakes. What is an earthquake? An earthquake is an intense shaking of the Earth's surface. The shaking is caused by movements in the Earth's outermost layer, which is called the crust. So in the picture, we see that the crust or the surface of the Earth has cracks, and that's evidence of an earthquake. Why do earthquakes happen? Although the Earth looks like a pretty solid place from the surface, it's actually extremely active just below the surface. The Earth is made up of 4 basic layers: a solid crust, a hot, nearly solid mantle, a liquid outer core, and a solid inner core. So in the diagram, you can see layers of the Earth: the crust, which is the outer part, the outer layer, the mantle. Then we have the outer core and the inner core shown in the yellow area on the diagram. Now, earthquakes usually take place in special areas of the earth. They sometimes come without warning. Here are some things that you could do to prepare for an earthquake. Gather together. Discuss what you could do if an earthquake strikes. Select a place where anyone can practice earthquake drills. That's before an earthquake strikes. In addition, practice first aid and how to use a fire extinguisher. Make a list of essential things which should be kept. Example, bottled water, flashlights, radios, extra batteries, essential medications. What do you do when the shaking is over, if perchance there is a shaking that you experience? Still remain calm. Find out if anyone was injured and take a roll call, because this is very important. If anyone was injured during the shaking, then that person will definitely need medical attention. A roll call will definitely give the count of the number of persons who are present. That's simply it. If someone is missing, a roll call will give that indication. Next, give first aid. And finally, listen to the radio for instructions. So next we will examine another natural disaster, which is tsunami. The tsunami. What is a tsunami? A tsunami is a series of waves caused by an earthquake, underwater volcanic eruption, landslide, or other abrupt disturbance. So a tsunami is a series of waves. As a matter of fact, the waves are huge and high, or as we can say, tall. They go very high up into the air. Now, when a tsunami strikes, it takes away all living things in its path. As a matter of fact, it covers. So, all life that is in the path of a tsunami dies. Simply because it covers and life disappears by drowning. Now, when a tsunami passes, there is an aftermath. So in the picture, you can see the aftermath of a tsunami. Vehicles have been damaged. Houses have been destroyed. Trees and plants have been covered. And we see people wandering around trying to make things back to the original state. So a tsunami is another type of natural disasters. The next natural disaster that we will examine is forest fires. Forest fires occur in the forest, causing shrub and grasslands to burn. The uncontrolled wildfires can be caused by excessive heat from the sun, lightning, or human carelessness. When there is a forest fire, it affects the animals in the forest. It causes death and relocation of many animals, and in some cases, the extinction of some animals. It also causes land pollution. So there is an image there of a forest fire. And if you look very carefully, you will notice that birds are being affected. The birds are being affected. As a matter of fact, it appears as if they are all confused, flying around, and we can imagine the noise, the screeches, and the noise that birds make fill the atmosphere, all because of forest fire that is experienced in that image. So here we have some other images of forest fires, and you can see in the images that life of plants is being destroyed. So forest fires is another type of natural disasters that affect life, both plant and animals. The next natural disaster that we will look at is floods. What is a flood? A flood is an overflow of water from rivers, seas, or oceans. And this overflow of water submerges land that is usually dry. Not only land, but places where people live, their homes, their properties, business places, and even vehicles. So a flood is a natural disaster that affects life. What causes floods? Floods are often caused by heavy rainfall, rapid snow melt for those countries that experience snow, a storm surge from a tropical cyclone, or a tsunami in coastland areas. Floods are also caused by humans. Yes, some activities that humans take part in that are not friendly to the environment contribute to floods. And then finally, when cokers are left open. Now in Guyana, along the coastland, there are several cokers. Cokers were built to manage the flow of water in our waterways from the rivers into the trenches or canals. And so when cokers are left open, that can contribute to floods. In the picture, we notice one, heavy rainfall, and the effects, the result is flood. In the next picture, we notice that a coker was left open, and as a result, the water from the high tides has flown inland and has resulted in flooding. Of course, flooding has effects. So what are some of the effects of flooding? In Guyana, flooding generally causes damage to property and infrastructure. It also affects agriculture. So there are agricultural losses. Flooding also increases the risk of waterborne diseases. However, the worst recorded flood event in Guyana was in January 2005. This resulted in several deaths due to leptospirosis. Now, in January 2005, there was a massive flood that was experienced across the lower east coast of Guyana. Loss of livestock due to drowning is another effect of flooding. Water is also contaminated during flooding, thus making it difficult to get potable water. The agricultural sector is mostly affected since there are damages to crops and loss of livestock. So there we have pictures showing what floods have caused. One picture shows that chickens have died due to flooding. And of course, there are lots of chicken farms in our country where farmers rear chickens as a means of earning a living. Flooding on the coastline is the next picture that shows us how flood has affected areas along the coastline of Guyana. And of course, the coastland is found along the low coastal plain. So there is where flood affects the most. Ways to reduce flooding. Of course, if flooding occurs, there must be some way how this can be controlled or managed or reduced. So how do we reduce flooding? One, by cleaning drains that are found right in our communities where we live. Next, we can plant trees. Planting of trees aid in reducing floods. Why does that happen? You see, when trees are planted, they grow tall and strong. As a matter of fact, their roots grow deep down into the soil, and so it aids in the prevention of erosion and also contributes to the soil remaining compact so that flooding does not occur quite easily. Next, cokers can be built. Yes, cokers, because it is from the cokers or by the use of cokers, water flow is controlled in and out of the land. Next, one final thing which is very important, stop polluting water. Stop water pollution. So what does that mean? Stop throwing garbage and refuse into our waterways. And so by that means, we will and can reduce flooding. So boys and girls, we have examined several natural disasters. This has brought us to the end of our lesson on natural disasters. Do stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye, boys and girls.